The Kentucky Wildcats look to bounce back under Mark Stoops, and these are my best and worst case scenarios for Kentucky football in the 2024 college football season. Hello, everyone. I'm Phillips of SEC Unfiltered. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that bell icon as well so you get notifications of when we go live and when we drop new video content, which is each and every single day. Also, guys, check out the podcast, which drops daily: iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, SECUnfiltered.com. The following is brought to you by our friends over at RHOBACK. Guys, head over to RHOBACK.com. That's RHOBACK.com, and use the promo code SECU at checkout to get 20% off your entire first purchase. Guys, I was out at the Masters practice round on Monday, and let me tell you guys, I saw RHOBACK everywhere I looked, from their traditional pieces to the new Azalea collection, which just dropped and is, by the way, out for a limited time. Guys, if you haven't jumped on this RHOBACK wave, you are missing out. I'm telling you, polos, quarter zips, hoodies, you name it. They've got it for everyone and everything you need. Head over to RHOBACK.com. Like I mentioned, guys, and like I mentioned, that Azalea collection, guys. Hey, the weather's warming up. Baseball season's here. Golf season. It's Masters week. You want to make sure you're set up with our friends at RHOBACK. So that's RHOBACK.com, RHOBACK.com. Use that promo code SECU at checkout to get 20% off your entire first purchase. What feels like a big year is upcoming for Mark Stoops and the Kentucky Wildcats, with some of the offseason madness and what I would call a disappointing 2023. I think Kentucky fans are keeping a close eye on this 2024 season as kind of now what for Mark Stoops? Where is the program? What direction is the program trending in? Big season upcoming. And these are my best and worst case scenarios for Kentucky football this year. And guys, let me preface by saying this. This is realistic best case and worst case. You're not going to hear me say, oh, worst case 0-12, best case 12-0. Realistic best and worst case. These are not predictions. These are just best and worst case scenarios. And when it comes to Kentucky football, what's the ceiling? What's the floor? Let's take a look at this schedule, guys. One of the tougher schedules in the SEC, your SEC home opener. You welcome the South Carolina Gamecocks, who's beaten you a couple times in a row now. Then you got Georgia. You got to go to Ole Miss. You got to go to Florida. You got to go to Tennessee. You got to go to Texas. Also, you mix in Auburn at home, Louisville at home. It's not an easy schedule for Kentucky. So let's start, guys, with the best case scenario. And what I mean by this is there are a number of questions that every college football team has coming in the year. The majority of these questions work out in the positive for Mark Stoops' program, right? You add Brock Vandagriff, the Georgia transfer of the offseason. Let's say he pops, right? The offensive line, the defensive line. Kentucky gets back to what we've seen under Mark Stoops, which is that hard-nosed line of scrimmage, really the brand they've built under Mark Stoops. They get back to that. The running game takes a step forward because, guys, I know Kentucky fans, a lot of them disagree with this. As good as Ray Davis was last year, the running game was not great, right? So the running game takes a step forward. Berrigan Brown and Dane Key, they have better seasons, more so live to their potential, right? The quarterback position, like I mentioned, it was a disappointment last year. So Brock Vandagriff, he takes off. He shines under Liam Cohen's offense. Or excuse me, Liam Cohen no longer there. Shines under the new OC, if you will. I almost forgot. We've had so much news in the offseason, things can slip your mind, if you will. So Brock Vandagriff shines under a new OC. The defensive side of the football gets shored up, takes the next step. And Kentucky's capable, guys. Kentucky's capable. Mark Stoops done a great job building that program. My best case scenario, though, for Kentucky football, you look at that schedule, my best case scenario is 8-4 for the Cats in 2024. And, guys, you look at it. The reason for this is just you look at the schedule, man. Georgia, Ole Miss on the road, Tennessee on the road, Texas on the road. That's 4 losses right there that I think most people are going to feel pretty confident in putting an L next to those games in heavy black ink, right? Then you got the game against Louisville, which obviously was a thriller last year. You got Auburn at home, which I know a lot of people, including myself, are high on Auburn this year, think they could be a team that pops in 2024. Even the game at Florida, guys, is tricky, right? It's tricky. Because it's Billy Napier could be fired by this point. Also, Florida, could be one of the surprises of the SEC by this point. South Carolina in week 2, right? I think a lot of Kentucky fans are going to gloss over that game, but I mean, you've lost multiple in a row to them, right? Shane Beamer's got Mark Stoops' number, as much as Kentucky fans hate to hear that. So 8-4, I think, would be a fantastic season for Kentucky. I think they're capable. I think they are capable of getting to that number, but that feels like the ceiling for the 2024 season. Certainly doable, but a lot of things have to work out the right way for the Cats. When it comes to worst case scenario, now, this would be assuming, Brock Vandagriff, we know he has talent, but he's never played any meaningful snaps. So what if he's not the guy at quarterback, which is going to affect the Barryon Brown? It's going to affect the Dane Key. You're not going to get the most out of those guys at the wide receiver position. What if the offensive line, for whatever reason, continue to be kind of an eyesore for Kentucky? What if the defensive front, what if Kentucky defensively is not where they need to be yet again? What if, things snowball early? What if Kentucky starts 1-2? What if Kentucky starts, it would be 2-3 early on? It's interesting how momentum in the SEC is both positive and negative. Things can snowball for better or for worse. My worst case scenario for the Kentucky Wildcats, I got 5-7. And again, this is worst case. These are not predictions. This is worst case scenario. So I think Kentucky worst case is a team flirting with a bowl game. But I mean, guys, 5-7's in play because I mentioned those games against Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Texas. Most folks feel confident putting L's next to those games. What if Shane Beamer beats you again? What if Auburn's an upstart club? Louisville could go either way. Florida, you could say, could go either way, guys, on the road. Again, that is worst case. I don't think it's likely Kentucky loses all of those games, obviously, because what you'd be saying, I mean, the non-conference schedule, you're going to beat Southern Miss, you're going to beat Ohio, you're going to beat Murray State. Okay, that's 3 wins built in right there. So what we're saying is Kentucky would go 2-7 against the rest of their schedule. I don't think that's likely, but it's possible. If the majority of question marks for Kentucky go the way Cats fans hope that they don't go. So, worst case scenario, 5-7. Best case scenario, 8-4 for the Kentucky Wildcats. And guys, what I mentioned, what feels like a pivotal season for Mark Stoops, right? Especially after the offseason, the offseason chatter of people thought he was going to Texas A&M, then he's back in Lexington. He's had complaints about NIL, and he's been there for so long, it kind of gets to a point where if we start to see the program not trending in a positive direction, you have to wonder how much longer he will have in Lexington. And you have to wonder if maybe Mark Stoops is potentially looking for a way out after the Texas A&M stuff and the rumors happen over the offseason. But again, Kentucky, one of those fascinating teams. I think one of those fascinating middle-of-the-pack SEC teams. The schedule is a gauntlet like many others have. There's a lot of new moving pieces. You add, by the way, Jamar Dumas-Johnson on the defensive side. Maybe he helps that defense take a step forward. He turns into a star. So Kentucky going to be an interesting to follow. But, guys, how do you feel like the Cats are going to fare? Am I being fair in my ceiling and my floor for Kentucky? Again, my best case, worst case. Best case, 8-4. Worst case, 5-7. Going to be a wildly interesting year for the Cats on the gridiron in the 2024 season. Guys, that's going to do all for me. I appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Again, guys, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that bell icon as well so you get notifications of when we go live and when we drop new video content, which is each and every single day. Also, guys, check out the podcast, which drops daily, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us across social media platforms as well as our website, SECUnfiltered.com. Until next time, guys, I'm Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in, and we'll catch you on the other side.